That thing's going up like crazy. Yeah, that's gonna be up, I think, next fall or next spring or something.
That's quick.
Yeah, it's gonna be a whole hospital.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Community Development, Economic Development, Park and Recs Committee meeting. It's Tuesday, February 8th, 4 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. Mrs. Sensky, would you call the roll?
Ms. Haynes, Mrs. Mills,
Here.
Mr. Roskovics,
Here.
Mr. Timonier.
Here.
We have Ms. Graves from Parks and Rec, and we have a visitor, Peggy Sensky from Signature Health. Thank you.
We have met the requirements of the Sunshine Law. So today we have a special guest presentation. Mrs. Peggy Sensky is the community liaison for Signature Health. She's going to update us on what the community liaison position is and how that impacts our community with her increased networking and connecting with others to help increase the quality of life for those in our community. A little bit of history for Mrs. Sensky. She has been the community liaison at Signature Health the past 6 months. Previous to that, she was in case management at Signature Health for 15 years. And before that, 3 years of case management at community counseling. And before that, 8 years in a residential treatment center for adolescent children. So Mrs. Sensky comes to us with a plethora of knowledge, and we are happy that you gave some of your time today to come here, and we'll open the floor to you, and then we can do some questions and answers. So thank you for coming today.
Thank you, Jody. Thank you to the council for having me today. Signature Health is a federally qualified healthcare medical center. We're also nonprofit. So the areas that we assist the community in are primary care, behavioral health, and addiction recovery. So basically we can help you from head to toe. We found out through many years of helping the community that, you know, your physical well-being and your mental health, they connect together. So sometimes you can have a mental health issue and it's actually being caused by a physical health issue. So we have our own pharmacy, labs, so you can get your medication. It can be delivered if you need to. And of course, having the lab there, you don't have to go somewhere else to get your blood work taken care of. Along with all of our primary medication, we do anything that a regular medical care would do. You know, if you're diabetic or just blood pressure, we take care of children, you know, as well as adults. And with behavioral health, that's mental health to a lot of people. We have individual counseling, many group counseling. We have probably a good 11, 12 different groups going on that can help with addiction recovery, nutrition. We have some programs for adolescents, you know, many of them, and they change frequently. And we also do have peer recovery. And if you don't know what peer recovery is, that is a person that has been in recovery like for 3 years, and can go out into the community and help that person who may be just beginning recovery, needs assistance, maybe they need somebody to go to an AA meeting with them. So it's a really great program, and we have 3 people that work for us that can do that. And we also have groups that you can come in and take care of. That's just open to the public. Also, we have our MAT team, which is a medication assistance team. And for someone that's in recovery or trying to get recovery, they can walk in the door and get service that day. So we can get you on medication and we can get some aftercare going for you right away. So we do offer walk-in services. So if you're not sure, you forget the number, you can't find us, just walk in the door, go to the front desk, and you know they'll help you out. We can be reached by 992-8552 number. And that's something you can find if you go online. We also have a website, Signature Health Inc., INC, so signaturehealthinc.org. And you can see a lot of our programs, and with our new marketing team, they keep that updated. So you can get a lot of details about our programs that way. Or you can call by phone and we're happy to help you. A lot of barriers to our community are drugs, poverty, and housing. So we do have case management services. So that case manager can be connected with you, and they can help you with whether it's transportation or connecting you with all the services that are in Ashtabula County, and kind of guide you along, take you by the hand. Somebody that you can call for support for those basic needs. A lot of the triggers that people go through that may need our services or other services in the county, can be emotional, physical, and added with that sexual abuse. So it's hard for people to reach out, but there are a lot of people that go through this. We're glad to have you come in. 1 in 5 adults have a diagnosable mental illness, and that's a lot of people. So you're not alone out there. Come on in and see us, and we'll be glad to help. We also have the Child Advocacy Center, and it's the only one of its kind in this area. And what that does is, in the past, if a child of sexual abuse was reported to Children's Services, sometimes that child, that victim, would have to go to the hospital, then go to the police department. Sometimes we used to have to drive all the way down to Youngstown. And so that victim has already been abused, so that was just another way of them going through a lot of stress. So now with the Advocacy Center, we have it right over at Signature Health Building on the 2nd floor. It's a private area. It has a friendly living room area with toys. There is an exam room and a trained nurse to be there to guide that victim. There's a shower area afterwards if that's needed. They can be quietly brought through our back door entrance if they need to, and then we can get all the services right in front. And an officer that would need to come in and do that report, he can come into the building and go to an opposite area, and through technology, he's able to listen to that report and that investigation that is done by a trained individual. So it makes it a lot easier for victims of child abuse, sexual abuse. We also are going to be expanding our building. We've been in the first 4 floors since about 2014, so we're now renovating the 5th and 6th floors. Our primary medicine has really increased, so we're going to expand our primary and put it up on the 6th floor. We're going to expand the lab and the pharmacy because that has increased also. So we're pretty excited about the expansion. I also would like to share with the community that if they would like to tour the building, I know we did that when we first opened up, but some people missed out on that. So, you can reach me by calling 440-992-8552. Just ask for the community liaison or the person who does the tours, or my name is Peggy Sensky, however you want to get there. But I would be glad to tour anybody through that building. And thank you so much for having me today.
I thank you, Peggy. And Signature Health does so much in the community, and I know you also, we had talked, Peggy, that you also go to some of the different sites to give your information. I don't know if you can maybe elaborate a little bit on that. Do you go to a few of the different, I don't know if they have some of the food banks, or to just let people know, or maybe you can say, how do maybe somebody who's not watching this or getting a newspaper, or I don't know, even, being on a website or something, if they really need help, where are you doing some outreach that maybe you can share a little bit of that?
Yes, anytime there is an event, outdoors especially, I will get involved in that. We did some things last summer. There was an event in the park and different areas. Of course, with COVID, that's decreased a little bit, but we're hoping that we can get back out there more in the community. I do, go to the food pantries anywhere in the area too. I've given out brochures and material. Now that we have a marketing department, they keep us updated with material, so I can pass that out to anyone. Please invite me. I'll go anywhere in the county and bring information. Come and talk with you. That's what I do. I'm mobile, and I like getting out of the office. So, yeah, please reach out because we'd be glad to be out there and share what we have for the community.
Thank you very much. I didn't know, are you going to be at that, I know that RAM USA is going to be at Lakeside. Are you going to be out there?
Yes, actually, I just was talking about that today,
good.
and have reached out to the email that was provided because I saw it in the paper, got an email about it, and we have faithfully gone each time it's been here. So
Okay.
we will have a table there at RAM.
Okay, well, I'm sure a few of us will see you there because I'm working that too. That's a great program. And I know building trust, building trust in the community is something that you do also. I know my history of case management, and I've worked aside Mrs. Sensky. And when we, each person is a case by case. It's not a cookie cutter thing for helping people. So knowing that now, I think in years past, it didn't have that you could just walk in and people making appointments and then you think about it and then you don't go. So you're doing a lot of good things there. Do we have opening up any other questions after all that info?
Yeah. I was wondering, can you tell me a little bit more about, you say you're doing primary care now, you're gonna have the 6th floor, so like, you have a doctor there, or what's that like?
Yes, we have primary care doctors there, nurses, just like if you go to any doctor's office, we are primary care now too. Because we see the connection is so important to treat the whole person.
Right.
Not just their mental health, but just not their physical health both. So we have mental health, psychiatric care, and then we have primary care.
And somebody would just walk in off the street and?
Well, when you
Or-
come in off the street,
Yeah.
we're going to do an assessment first. Of course,
Okay.
we want to get your information and whether it's insurance, those kind of issues. So an assessment will be done, and you can walk in. I suggest maybe calling, make an appointment if you don't have time to wait, because people might have walked in before you, and all the assessment staff is busy. So, but you can do both ways. Walk in or call. And then after the assessment's done, they'll start making appointments for you. They'll see, what do you need? Does that person maybe need primary care? Maybe they have a case manager at another agency, but they want to come for primary care. It's okay to do that. You just don't want to have a case manager from this agency and a case manager from another one. So that brings up with the case management being so important, because so many people don't know how things run, and it's very confusing. And when you're dealing, with a physical problem or an emotional problem, it's hard to build trust with people. You may have been suffering since you were a little kid, and it's really hard. There's a myth around mental health still, and we want to put it out there that anybody walking around the earth needs some help at some time in their life. So we want to make it open for people to just walk in the door if they need to, if they don't mind waiting. But yeah, primary care, like I said, we have the lab and blood work, and they do everything that your regular doctor would do somewhere else. Diabetes screening, cancer screening, sending you to specialists if you need it, blood pressure, cholesterol, all that stuff. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, very excited that we have that.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's great, because then the person doesn't have to go to, a lot of times you won't go. It's, you got to go here and there and everywhere. So like one-stop shopping.
Yes,
So
yeah, that's what we
that's a
were
lot
trying
of
to
good
make it
information. And I'm seeing with all these group lists you have, I don't know, it looks like you probably have over a dozen groups.
Yes.
So let me ask first, do we have any other questions from anybody else here?
I was gonna ask one more.
Yeah.
So, Peggy, say you do have an issue, where the staff or the doctor, they feel somebody needs to be, I don't wanna say institutional, but needs like overnight care, something along. Now, where does that take place then? You refer them to somewhere?
Yes, we do. And,
Okay.
and that happens frequently. That's part of our life over there. Some
Yeah.
people are, have an emergency situation, and we're not a hospital, so
Right.
we work very well with local, areas, even out of the county sometimes, where we've had to, use facilities out there. So we have we've had for many years a crisis team that can be called and taken care of. And there are some things we have coming up, new treatments. Things are changing so much. As soon as that information gets completed and things are signed and we have concrete, we can let that out to the community. But, it's just this county needs it, and we're glad to see it and put it out there and help everybody as a whole person. Families also. Families struggle too, especially someone with addiction. So, there's help for the family. What do we do? How do we manage this? So.
Thank you. I think last thing I was going to ask you, what is your take on the issues with homelessness and how your facility is able to make an impact? Because of course, what we want to do is to increase the quality of life for everybody that's here. And I think first is the ability to be able to reach people and be able to see what the needs are, and it's all individual. And it's awesome you're going out to all these places. So do you have any take of some things that are, I know we're pretty, well, I say very good in this area for areas that folks can access food and clothing. And I don't know if you're finding across the board your constant is the housing. Or I don't know if you're seeing things in your place that maybe you could share with us, if there's any info on that.
Yes, absolutely. Housing is a good point. That's always been the number one issue, as 18 years of being a case manager, difficult to do. And it's also poverty. It's also, I think, a lot of abuse that happens in the beginning of your life. People who go through that, it's hard to, get somebody in the door. Again, there's that trust issue. So what we hear from people who are homeless or anybody struggling is the trust. They've learned to not trust anyone. So to just reach out on their own, it's difficult. And then you have a lot of severe mental health out there, people who really need medication to calm the brain down, and so much that medication can do for a brain of someone has a bipolar disorder or schizophrenia. If they're out and not being monitored, they don't get their medication, so their mental health gets severe, and they're out in the community. And that's why we began the walk-in. Sometimes when we're out in the community or we meet someone who's homeless, we encourage them to come into the building. We've had them come into the building. We've used our emergency crisis to get them to the hospital or get them help. But, people have rights. You can't make somebody want to get help. Therapy only works unless you want it. So how do you get somebody to want it? So I think people need the basics: food, shelter, and clothing. If you can start there and then start to build trust, that's why case management is so important, because that person can walk them through the community, try to keep them stable, work on their budget. Maybe they need a payee for their income that's coming in to help manage. Maybe they've never learned how to budget. So there's a lot of things that have to happen to get somebody stable. And again, we can't force people, but as Signature Health, we need to get out in the community as much as we can, which we do. We're hoping in the future with another program to get out to those areas that homeless are at, so that we can, give them what we can do and stay on top of it and build that trust in the community, get them used to us. Very hard to do with COVID, and the winter, of course, is difficult for anybody. I know since 2016, homelessness has increased, not just in our county, but throughout this country. No one seems to know why that is, and I'm not sure myself, but it's really not knowing the answer is how do we fix it? How do we decrease it? Maybe we don't decrease all of it, but let's get it down there. And we have helped a lot of people who were homeless that are now stable, that we were able to get help, and that has shared with us that how we have helped them, or other agencies in this community has helped them, and they're not homeless anymore. So, we're focused on the ones that need the help, but sometimes we forget all the ones that we did help, and they are out there for sure.
No, thank you. Those success stories that you, we'll put those up at the top. So sort of a recap, you're able to take tours of Signature Health. You can reach out to Signature Health, the 440-992-8552. They have the MAT team with walk-in services that day where you can schedule. They have case management. They have treating the whole person head to toe, so medically, psychologically. They have a lot of good things going on, lots of different groups. And if anybody needs any more information, we've got over there at Signature Health brochures, group list. And Peggy, we will have you back because it sounds like you guys are doing some more exciting things. So thank you for your time.
Wait a minute. How many people working in the old hotel? Would you know? Have like an idea?
Yeah, there's a little over 100 here.
Really?
And then
Wow.
there's, like I said, we had 11 locations from Conneaut to Beechwood, so we now have 800 employees total for Signature
Oh my
Health.
gosh! Wow. And 100 here.
Yeah, over 100 here now.
Wow.
Yeah, we're hiring all the time, especially since we have primary care now. A lot of nursing, a lot of added peer support recovery people, case managers. We're always hiring for case managers. We're always hiring because we're growing.
Yeah. Well, good for you.
That's good
wow,
to know.
That's nice for our town too.
That is very, very good service. So I thank you, and I think we will move on to the Parks and Rec Committee report. Mary?
Hello, everyone. Okay, so immediately, there's a couple of corrections on my little wish list paper. One, Councilwoman Jody Mills had suggested that my neighborhood make a wish list, and I kind of took that as, hey, that seems like a really good idea. So, and that, like, I would have that kind of idea and bring it to you all. So, okay, so, so the first two on the list here are about garbage cans. One, strike the number because we don't know yet. We want to go out when it's more accessible and there's not like 10 feet of snow on the ground and look and see what parks need garbage cans and benches, and then report back, have that information for you guys so you guys would have a better solid number for that type of thing. But some other things that we had been talking about either before this meeting, at the meeting, or before were we believe that motion censored lights and cameras for the Walnut Beach concession stand would be positive. This would allow less people to come and possibly making a mess. We might know there was concern about the equipment room being broken into last summer, so this might help with that area also. We have talked about possibly adding on a dedicated part-time summer park employee so that we could have them either empty trash cans more often or help to keep the restrooms clean at Walnut Beach. We also had talked about a resource officer being hired through park funds. Both of these would be through the park levy funds, to walk the park in summer to help enforce laws, mostly at Walnut Beach, Caden Park, and North and South Parks. We had suggested that we have wayfinding signs for Walnut Beach and Point Park, and that the signs would be placed at Lake and 9th Street, and then at the top of Bridge Street. This would allow people, especially going to Bridge Street area, to know there's a beach like a block away, and they can go check that out. We really have found that we have enough funds to do pretty much any project that the city would like to do and we would like the city to do. One of them is resurfacing the basketball courts at Caden Park. Pete Bean, when he came in last week to our Parks and Rec meeting, had informed us that the basketball courts up there were not able to just be like refilled. There's grass coming up through the cracks and things like that. So that this would be a resurfacing job. We'd really like that for our 2022 project. We'd like to suggest that to the city and to this committee, you know. And we believe that between the smaller items that we suggest for different parks and this project this year, that we would have rollover and time to focus on a Smithfield sports complex. So those are like the two big projects that we'd like to have maybe in the next couple of years, and focus toward that. So, and that is all that I have. Does anybody has questions, of course?
And Mary, when is your next meeting again?
Our next meeting is Tuesday, March 1st, and it is at 5 p.m. That's probably
Okay.
one of the things.
So are we, Mr. Manager, so we just changed those legislation, we're okay for making a 5 p.m. all the time? Okay. And Mary, that was, you wanted 5 all the time, pretty
Yes.
much? Okay.
Yes, we had a motion and changed our meeting time from 6 p.m. to 5 p.m. and would like that reflected in the, it's in the city council ordinance. I'm pretty
Yep,
sure.
last night, we voted on a
Okay, yeah, you
lot.
guys did.
Mrs. Mills?
That's not, but just
I don't think we're gonna put the time
No,
in
not
the
the time.
ordinances, but, I mean, it can be
can
reflected
fluctuate.
on my calendar and the boards and commissions roster to show what time, and also Parks and Rec maybe could notify the Star Beacon, they usually have an agenda list, I think twice a week, that shows, when upcoming meetings are.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so I think we are on to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just going to address a few topics that were discussed in the park board here, because I believe the last time I went to the park board meeting, we talked about a lot of these things. First off, lights and cameras at Walnut Beach. The lights are on when it's dark. They don't go off, so there's no need for a motion sensor down there. Those lights are all around the concession stand. They're at the bocce court. They're in the parking lots, and they're on telephone poles out there. Like I said, those are all on photo cells. They come on and off from dusk till dawn. The camera situation and the what you call a break-in there was no evidence that there was a break-in. It actually, as we did some more research, it seems like there was a lot of keys handed out to that room. So we did go re-key that door and made it clear to the persons holding those keys they are not to make extra ones of those if we don't know about them. So I think that has been resolved. We have discussed at council a more global approach to signage, wayfinding signage around town. In that same discussion, there was talk that, most people have these things and that's what they're using when they looking for directions and things. So how much we wanted to do with cluttering roadways with signage. But we were talking a more global approach for wayfinding signage, not just the 2 parks that were mentioned. There was a comment made that you believe you have enough funding to do whatever. I don't think that's true, especially with the amount of different projects that I have had engineering done or estimates done over the years. There's been 4 different estimates for basketball courts at different various areas. Caden, I understand, has been a priority. I did say we would go out and evaluate that and have it drawn up if we needed to. The other comment when we were talking about Caden was less than a mile away is the brand new courts on 47th Street. And you also mentioned Smithfield. Smithfield was actually brought to the park board by myself and the staff that we were going after grant funding to redo Smithfield into this sports complex as it was mentioned, which included 2 basketball courts there as well. So that's a lot of basketball courts within, I guess you'd say, a mile radius, especially with the new ones on West 46th Street or 47th Street. But I'll be more than happy to get another estimate of what those courts would look like over at Caden. As far as staffing and all of that stuff goes, you know, I've kind of said to this park board, these day-to-day operations do not fall under the, I guess you'd say, supervision of the park board. We've tried to say how much we would like a master plan to come out of the park board, a much higher level discussion about what the park's futures look like. I've mentioned for 10 years we have too many parks. Which ones do we think that would serve the community better in a different capacity as not a park? Or if there's other organizations that might want to take on properties in neighborhoods, or if there's neighborhood groups that want to take on properties. Haven't had much movement there except for one of the parks that I've reached out to another organization that is interested in it, and I'm hoping that this year we can make an arrangement for that. You've discussed, actually, I think as of the last meeting, you wanted the courts at Nappy Field, but we had said there might be some other plans over at Nappy Field, so I guess now we've jumped over to Caden, which is okay, that's fine. But I think there needs to be a much higher level discussion and not so much of the in the weeds discussions about the day-to-day operations of the parks, so that you have a path and you have a wish list, so to speak, of what you would like to see in the parks and what you'd like to see done with the funding. I am moving ahead with Smithfield regardless. We're looking at allocation fundings for that. We're looking at ODNR funds for that, and you know, we just feel like that is a park that, with the ideas that we have for that park, would be well used and a very good source of spending that money to do that. And with the allocation grant, we have to have public hearings, we have to have public input, so it'll be well known what we're attempting to do, and hopefully we'll get that funding all together. And we'll need, the more funding that we get, the less money we need to take out of the levy funds to do that project. So that's the goal there. That's the goal with every project that we do. We try to find other grant funding to go after. The issue is when you come, 1 month and say we want to have this done by XYZ date, we don't have the opportunity to go after the funds because it's a much larger master plan. I always refer back to what we did on Bridge Street. That plan was sitting on a shelf even before my time here. When I got in here and we made amends with the state of Ohio and everybody we needed to get back in their good graces and receive grants, we had that plan that we could refer to, and as we looked at the grants, we could say, oh, look, there's this project that fits this grant. Boom, we apply for it and we do it. We don't have that with the parks right now. So if it's that my staff and I have to come up with the plan, we'll do that, but I would really like a global plan to come out of the Parks Committee so that there's a direction, there's a focus, it's a high-level conversation that then either council or my office or whoever can look at, make modifications to, whatever, adopt that plan, and then we have something that when the time comes, it's on the shelf, ready to roll. We can pull it right off and say, this has been a plan, this is why we should get funding for it, or just use our funding to do it, and put those things into action. Like I said, it worked. It worked perfectly for Bridge Street because it was all sitting there, and that's why we got what we got. And that is the path I would really, really like to see the park board go down. If you want to continue to count garbage cans, you're more than welcome to, but it's not going to make a difference in the overall outcome of our parks. Okay?
Thank you.
And Mr. Manager, can you give us some updates? Because I was at that meeting and there was a little question about with those. So can you tell us the process for example, North Park, which seems to have like their cans fill up quickly, so.
Well, and my guess is they're seeing this after, obviously there's been some groups that have supplied food to homeless and people in need in the parks, and then of course they use our cans to get rid of it. We have tried to pick those up every day, if not every day, every other day, and we even have a crew that comes in on the weekends to do, excuse me, commercial dumpster service. If we see that, we've been picking it up. We don't have a crew in on Sunday, so if it's full on Sunday, you know, it is what it is. But we do constantly do that. I know there's going to be times where it's full. We haven't got there yet, but we do have a routine for picking up trash. We do it at the same time we pick up all the cans on Main Avenue. It's the same thing we have with the beaches. I think I do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. We do for Walnut Beach and bring everybody in on Saturday to pick that stuff up. So yeah, I mean, it's part of our daily routines.
Okay, no, thank you, that was discussion. And if there is a area or a park, I know one of the parks, and I don't know, Mary, maybe if you can find out, but if somebody is in need, and I didn't even know if it was, you know, they're talking about, you know, those metal sort of decorative ones with the insert. I know there's different park garbage cans. If there's one that doesn't have one, if somebody lets you know, then there's,
The plastic inside, or what do you?
It's at Caden Park, there actually is not a solid garbage can. It's a blue barrel that is, I mean, it's like one of those big barrels you collect water in. So there, and it gets, I guess my neighborhood collaborative comes in a lot, and they find it tipped over, the garbage strewn everywhere. They got to pick it up a lot.
Okay.
It probably would help if they had one good solid garbage can there.
Okay.
Jim, oh, I'm sorry.
so we got something resolved. But I
Well,
mean,
and I know it's like, you know,
we
it's
don't want
simple.
garbage flying all over, whatever.
Absolutely, and I
but
know it's
yeah.
simple to say, well, you know, we just want to get a garbage can. Well, you know, the ones that we usually get for parks that are more of that commercial type strength, you know, they're $500 or $600 sometimes, and then of course you've got possibly $100 worth of shipping coming in that cost, and then of course with all the time delays that we had going from last year, you know, it does unfortunately take a little bit of time to get these things in, but it's not just as simple as, you know, going to Home Depot and buying a can and putting it out there,
Well,
because they
exactly.
have to be ones that last.
Exactly, and we don't know what we don't know. So if there's something's lacking, or, you know, you're making assessments as you're, you know, looking at something, and you're right, they're all, some of those ones were like those black iron ones, and weren't there some that were like brown but sort of have a top you sort of put your hand in? So I wasn't sure kind of like for park what they were wanting, but
Well, and there again, in a quote unquote master plan for the parks, you would identify a common fixture, whether that be benches, whether that be signage. I tried to start that with all of the signage. We have the same symbol, the A symbol for parks that the county was using. So we tried to do that throughout all the parks, to start getting some consistency with our parks, so people know if they're in there that, you know, this is a city-funded park. So yeah, it would be nice to have a uniform look of benches, a uniform look of trash cans, a uniform look of, you know, it's a little bit harder in the harbor because you're still part of the historic district. So we've tried to mimic the iron cans that are on Bridge Street, the iron benches that are there. We have the same bike racks that were on Bridge Street. There's one down at, or there's two down at Walnut Beach now. So yeah, I mean, it's nice to try to mimic those things, or at least keep a consistent look within the parks.
okay, well, thank you. I think that's moving forward. Yes, go ahead, yes.
Mr. Timonier, I was just wondering, is there, like, in your time, is there like a relationship between the enthusiasm of the concessionaire down Walnut Beach and the condition of, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
last year, we had
Yeah.
trouble, And I think we heard a lot about the beach. I wonder if there's a
Well, I don't-
relationship there.
Yeah,
you know?
I think we had more made-up trouble than what there was actual trouble.
Yeah, you just seemed to
But,
hurt.
yeah, that, I think there's, sometimes when people either don't like who's operating the concession stand or whatever, they try to make it more difficult. It is out to bid right now. We have some very strong candidates that have come in, some that have actually run pretty well-known restaurants in our area. So I am more enthused this year about that. But you know, I know we've talked about the restrooms all the time. I said it during a park board meeting. We could clean those restrooms 24 hours a day. In my opinion, those restrooms are terrible. They should have never been remodeled back in 2015 or whenever we did it, but we did it because that was what everyone wanted. We should have never put a new roof on that concession stand. We should have built something new for all the money that we have invested in it. It's old. It's equipment that, you know, there's not much else you can do because of the way that the concession stand was built back in the 60s or whenever it was built. So yeah, I would like to look at a way to redo all of that stuff, whether that be with a separate building down there or just blocking off the restrooms that are there. That building, I would say maybe a quarter of it is actually used compared to what it used to be, and it's an albatross down there in my opinion. It doesn't fit the area. It doesn't fit a beach look. We've tried to paint it. We put the lipstick on the pig. It still is what it is, and I'm sorry to be so negative about it, but there was a better way to spend all those funds. But we went with what everybody wanted, so.
Mr. Manager, can I ask you, so if, for the sake of the bathrooms and, we're putting out the bid, it'd be great, we, get a good concessionaire, get people to come down there. If for the sake of, not even saying cosmetically, but structurally, the, pumping and the sewer, and if we didn't do anything with bathrooms, financially this year, are we gonna run into
No, I mean,
problem is-
everything is functional.
Okay.
It's functional, it's just the visual of it.
it's
Yeah.
not brand spanking new, but,
Right,
okay.
yeah. There's nothing wrong with fixtures, anything like that. We repair.
Getting rid of and pumping and up the
Nothing,
hills?
no, the pump station
Okay.
is fine. Actually, I think last year we put 2 new pumps down there, just
Okay.
because they were older, but it's never been a situation where things have flooded or anything like that, no.
Okay, that's good, good
Besides
information.
people clogging it on their
Well,
own,
yeah.
right? with Some of the, yeah. I don't know what happens in these restrooms sometimes.
As we
but
learned
it's-
from some of our information in council about,
Right.
don't use those supposed to be, what is it,
Yeah.
disposable wipes? They
Yeah.
don't go through our
Flushable
system.
wipes are not really flushable.
They're not flushable.
Yeah.
Right, okay. We have a couple unfinished business items, just to update. Maybe, Mr. Manager, if you could update on the Walnut Beach sign, that there was a donation from Mr. Morrison, and where we were on that, or any updates?
I mean, the prices came in almost double what they were a year or two prior to that when we made the request. So we are working with the Morrison Foundation and trying to find either a different way to do this or just hold the project off a little bit until the price comes back down.
Was this gonna be like a sign?
An archway at the top
Okay.
of the hill. Yeah.
Okay. And then another thing was just the medical marijuana dispensary update, because I think November 11th was sort of like that cutoff. And
Yeah.
is there any more updates on that?
There has been some information leaking from the state of Ohio. I don't know if any of, I don't know if they've actually been awarded yet. I'm going to follow up with a few of the people that applied just to find out if they have heard anything, but we have not received anything verbally or physically on paper yet that any licenses were distributed in Ashtabula, not only the city, but in the county. I know that a ton of applications from the county went in.
Yeah.
Okay.
One or two of those would be nice, even economic development things for the city, from what I understand, talking to some couple people. They would be nice.
And I think the legislation that's now, I think it's working its way down in the State House for recreational, that could make a big difference too when it comes to these dispensaries, so. It's a, when we talk about addiction and all the other issues we have here, medical marijuana is one of those lines that, I'm kind of right down the middle on. I'm not going out of my way to support it, but I'm not going out of my way to be against it because I know there are people that have truly benefited from it. I know I told the story before of a guy that I went to school with in high school. His son has many physical issues, 200 or so seizures a day. They actually moved to Colorado because of the availability of medical marijuana at the time, and his child is doing so much better having that kind of treatment rather than all the other drugs that are out there. So I see it in situations like that, but I also see the people that abuse that. So it's one of those fine lines that we have to walk here. But we did everything that we needed to do to support those that applied, that did the applications and requested help from us. So we'll see what happens at the state level.
Okay. Do we have any new business? Our next meeting is going to be Tuesday, March 8th at 4 o'clock right here. And we have a special guest, will be Brad Blair, who is a project consultant at Ashtabula Capital Access Program. So that should be another good meeting. Thank you, and our meeting is adjourned 4:45.
Threatening Jane here. Jane is in trouble.